Hello guys, it is me again, it's HorrorFan34, and welcome back to another video. And welcome to day 20 of my 31 days of horror in October. And before I get onto that, let me just take a sip of iced tea. Ain't nothing like homemade iced tea, I'll tell you that for sure. But anyways, for day 20 of my 31 days of October, I've been having a lot of fun doing this marathon, by the way, and I'm glad that you guys are enjoying this marathon. I've been getting a lot of really nice comments, so really glad that you guys are enjoying this marathon of reviews. It's been a whole different variety, because like I said, with each and every review I'm doing for the month of October, these are some of my personal favorite horror films, whether it be classics, underrated ones, obscure ones, remakes, slashers, etc. So, why not review another classic film that I also really love? And this film started it all, and started with a whole bunch of sequels. And of course, you can tell by the title, that review is going to be on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, of course, this is the one from 1974, directed by Tobe Hooper. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm not going to say, this review is probably not going to be too much of too long of a review, because what else can be said more about the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre that hasn't been said before? I mean, the original film that started it all, directed by Tobe Hooper, very solid cast, and of course, there's a lot of people associated with this film that are not with us anymore. Of course, I had this signed by Gunnar Hansen back in 2014. Of course, Gunnar Hansen is no longer with us anymore, which is too bad. Of course, Tobe Hooper is no longer with us anymore. Marilyn Burns, who played Sally, she's no longer with us anymore either. Because Marilyn Burns passed away back in 2014. And that was a sad period of time around that time when Marilyn Burns passed away. Then not too long after that, then Robin Williams unfortunately passed away. So that was a pretty tough era around that time. First it was Marilyn Burns with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Then right after that it was Robin Williams. It was like a 1-2 punch. It's like, oh. But, of course, Paul Bertini, who plays Franklin, he's no longer with us anymore either, so rest in peace to all those guys. But getting on to the film itself, I mean, the story is very simple. You have a bunch of friends going to visit this property next to this property, and ends up being next door to the Leatherface family, and from there on they get picked off one by one, and things like that. I mean, that's why I'm saying it's really hard for me to review a film that everybody knows about, because the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a classic. It's one of the first films that started the slasher genre, because the same year as this, you would have the original Black Christmas, the same year. And of course, this would inspire other slashers, whether it be, Friday the 13th, or Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, things like that. So this is really one of the first slasher films that started the era of slasher films. This is really one of the most influential ones, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And on top of that too, it's a slasher film, but it doesn't really rely heavily on gore, unlike, the later ones, like the sequels and the remake and the prequel and things like that. This is more of an atmospheric film, because it does have some bloody moments in it too, but it's really one of those slashers where it's more about the shock factor, and it really does succeed on that a lot, because I remember the very first time I saw this film, I was over at my buddy's house. I remember I bought this DVD long ago at Best Buy, back in like 2010, back when Best Buy sold more obscure things like this on DVD. Nowadays, you won't find stuff like this anymore on DVD at Best Buy. You'll probably have to get these things on Amazon nowadays. But whenever I bought this Ultimate Edition DVD back at Best Buy back in 2010, And I remember watching it that night with my buddy's house because I slept over at his place that night. It was on a weekend. And I remember, like, the very first time that the first time I saw this, we watched it together that night. And I remember, like, being so creeped out. It was, like, late at night. And then I remember, like, when the movie ended, because, you know, the movie ends, of course, if you haven't seen the film yet, where Sally's the only one that's left, and she escapes from the hitchhiker. And, of course, that's one of the best parts of the movie, is when Marilyn Burns breaks out of the window. She jumps through the window, and then the hitchhiker and Leatherface are chasing after her. And, of course, when they get to the road, you know, the hitchhiker gets run over by the semi-truck, things like that, and Leatherface is going after her. She ends up escaping in the back of a truck, and then you have that great moment where Leatherface is just frustrated. He's swinging the chainsaw all around, all frustrated, and it just ends with, you know, Leatherface just swinging the chainsaw around. And I remember it just stops, and then the credits start rolling, and me and my buddy kind of looked at each other like, what did we just watch? And I think that's one of the reasons why this film succeeds for me, because it was creepy. Because, you know, there are some psychos out there, and, you know, like psychotic families, you know, because I know this was based on true events from Ed Gein, you know, how psycho he was. But this film just succeeds in every way, you know. And of course, you have that great opening narration by John Larroquette, you know, who does the opening crawl narration to the film and things like that. And this film succeeds at a lot of stuff. It has a really solid cast. You know, Marilyn Burns as Sally is great. You know, Paul Bertain as Franklin, he does a great job. Edwin Neal, who's the hitchhiker, does great. You know, of course, Gunnar Hansen as Leatherface and things like that. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is really one of those films that I feel like is still one of the creepier films that one of the more scarier films that scared me, that really creeped me out. This film does a lot of stuff really, really well. It's got a great atmosphere. I love the whole setting. I love it's real 70s. Just the way that they're taught, they're like the way the stuff they're talking about, the way they're dressed. You can tell it's the 70s. Of course, you have Jim Seedal as the cook. You know, we have you know, Grandpa. I mean, you have, you know, just great characters. And this was the film that spawned Leatherface into one of the more iconic horror characters of all time. And this film just does a lot of stuff well. I mean, you know, it's got a wonderful atmosphere. I love the cast. I think it's directed very well by Tobe Hooper. It's just a lot of good stuff in this film. And of course, you know, with the other sequels, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, 3, and the remake were much more violent than this one. This one was more of a shock value and more of a creepier vibe, because it didn't rely heavily on blood. But you know, for this film, it works really, really well, because you have a great horror icon in Leatherface. He looks really creepy. Gunnar Hansen played him very well. He's still, in my opinion, the best Leatherface. The other cast members do a great job as well. I love the whole setting. I mean, this film is just a lot of good stuff in this film. It's a lot of great stuff. I'm not going to say much more about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because if you haven't seen this film yet, then you're missing out. And this 2-disc Ultimate Edition too is a great DVD to have, because this has a ton of stuff on here, tons of features. You have 2 commentaries on. You have disc 1. You have 2 commentaries, one with Marilyn Burns, Paul Bertain, Alan Danziger, and Robert Burns. You have another commentary with Tobe Hooper, the cinematographer, and Gunnar Hansen. And on disc 2, you have great documentaries, deleted scenes, bloopers, outtakes. You know, a tour of the house with Gunnar Hansen as your host. I mean, this DVD has a lot of really great stuff on here for features. The commentaries are really good. It's good to hear from, you know, Paul Bertain and all them before they passed away on a commentary. But this film, I'm not going to say much more. It's a film that you just have to see. So that is pretty much it for my review for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Alright guys, take care.